Welcome to the Sefiros and your marriage. I'm so excited today to be speaking with Miriam Cohen, and we will be talking about the Sefiros and how that makes a difference, how understanding the Sefiros makes a difference to our marriages and in our lives. So while we wait for Miriam to join, hi. Oops, I cannot hear you. Okay. So I'll just start sharing a little bit while we are waiting for the technical aspect of our live today to come together. All over Chassidus, it talks about the Sefiros. The Sefiros are the way that Hashem interfaces with us, how Hashem designed our world, the way that Hashem interacts with us. And by understanding these Sefiros, these divine emanations, these divine qualities that Hashem uses to interact with us, we can deeper understand our psyche. Because these Sefiros are not just the way that Hashem integrates with us, Hashem relates to us, but they're actually reflected in our bodies, and they are also part of our neshamas. They're how our neshamas, as the divine energy of Hashem, expresses itself in our bodies. So through understanding these spheres and through understanding these different energies and qualities that we have, we can better understand ourselves, and we can better understand each other and connect with each other. So I have here a Sefiros chart. I'm not quite sure how to share it on my screen, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way and just turn my video around. Let's see if I know how to do that. Okay, yes, I do.
And I'm on the carnival. Connor, can you make my hair?
Oopsies. I don't know who's in the class right now. Okay. So the Sefiros chart that I have here, the masculine depicts the masculine and feminine paradigms. And if you'll notice, it looks like a little person. The head on top is Keser. The Chachma, Bina, and Das are the Meichen, or the intellectual capacities. And then the middle body is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. And then the bottom element is Malchus. So this chart is divided top and bottom, right, left, and center. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn that around again. Miriam, are you able to connect to your audio? Oops. Okay, now I hear you.
I'm here, Baruch Hashem. We switched to a different phone. Great.
Wonderful.
Okay. So where are you? You started, I'm assuming.
Yes,
I heard a little bit about
we're live. There's a little background noise. Let me just go take care of that.
Okay, me too as well. Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, wonderful. Great. Okay. So, did you start, Sarah Gita?
I just
started a little bit with
talking about the Sefiros, and I showed my chart, but I believe you're meant to start. So
okay, wonderful. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is really exciting for me. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Miriam Cohen. I'm from Tzfat, Israel. We've lived here for about 12 years. And my husband and I run an online program called livekabbalah.com, where we have students all over the world and learning Kabbalah and Chassidus. And I also run, as part of that, a coaching program called Own Your Light, the Sefiros Applied. And I do individual and group coaching there. And in addition, I'm also actually an occupational therapist, which I worked for many years. And I really incorporate a lot of the somatic techniques and the body work as well in the coaching program. And I'm really excited because I've also been part of Relationshift. I've taken Hinzi's course and I've been on some of actually your course, I think it was about a year ago. So this is really exciting for me. And the spheres are really very personal for me because I had really my own healing journey that came through the Sefiros when I was really studying the Sefiros, and that was a big part of it. So this is very exciting for me. So thank you for having me on. And if you could share a little bit about yourself and what you do in Relationship and your connection to the Sefiros, I'd love to hear.
Okay, sure. So Relationshift is a marriage and relationship coaching program. I compiled 13 relationship principles that really drive our approach to how do we develop our relationships to their greatest capacity. And I've had the zechus, the honor, the privilege to support numerous women in really building and achieving happiness and connection in their marriages, in their homes, and in many relationships, other relationships beyond just our marriage. So I was just talking a little bit before you came on about why the Sefiros are so central to our relationships, is because the Sefiros are the qualities that Hashem used to design and relate to us in this world. And they're not just supernal qualities, but they're actually stamped in our bodies, and they're also contained in our souls, in our neshamas. So to that end, to really understand the Sefiros makes a huge difference to how we're going to be able to relate to others and how we're going to be able to integrate with our relationships. So that's where I bring that into my coaching.
Amazing. And this is really so exciting to do this right now because we're in the time of Sefiros Omer. Mm-hmm. So it's just so apropos. So did you explain to them how there's different, I don't know, everyone has different knowledge of the Sefiros, there's the feminine dimensions and the masculine dimensions of
Not
the
yet.
Sefiros? Okay, great. So the Sefiros, as you said, are really the divine channels, spiritual energy that Hashem created the world and sustains the world constantly. And as you said, it's everything in this world was created and recreated constantly through the Sefirot, including ourselves, our physical bodies. And they're divided into feminine and masculine energies. So I meant to bring a chart up, but
I have a chart here.
Amazing.
I don't know how to, I only know how to share it in the very old-fashioned ways. But
perfect.
This is a chart that, oops, I'm covering my thing. So I pulled
perfect
together this Sefiros chart, and the masculine and feminine energies are divided side by side, right, left, and center, and top and bottom.
Yeah. So the right side of the Sefiros, you can see that, is Chachma, Chesed, and Netzach, and those are the masculine energies. Mm-hmm. And the left side of the Sefirot is Bina, Gevura, and Hod, and those are considered feminine energies, as well as the final of the Sefirot, the bottom of the chart, called Malchus. So that's basically how it's divided. And I was thinking in terms of where to start, Sara Gita, and it just kind of aligned to me to start with Chesed. Is that okay with you? Mm-hmm. Okay, wonderful. So I think that a lot of us as women...
Can I interrupt you for 1 minute, Miriam?
Yeah, sure, please, sure.
So the right side is masculine, the left side is feminine. The middles are the connectors, but then top and bottom, like you correctly said, Malchus is feminine, but the whole of Za, the middle circle, is all masculine. Right. So I think that's important to recognize too, that there's actually a very strong balance. We're going to get to it when a woman is within her Malchus, that the masculine energy actually spans both sides. So we're going to see that too as we talk.
Yes. Exactly. So in terms of our marriage and the dynamic of the masculine and feminine energies, I was thinking I think it's important to start with chesed, especially as women, because a lot of us as women have a hard time relating to what is chesed, what is that energy. So chesed is defined as love, expansiveness, connection, abundance. And as women, because again, that's not our predominant energy, a lot of times as women, we have a hard time actually relating to that energy. And what it really is that I think for most of us think of chesed as we defined it as giving. And really, what is giving? Giving is an action word. And I think it's really important when understanding the Sefirot that they're not, that especially chesed, it's not an act, it's a state of being. It says that when Hashem created the world, it says, Olam chesed ibaneh, that the world was built. It's the building blocks of creation is this energy of chesed. And in Bereshis, it says, Ela toldos shamayim va'aretz bihi bar'am, that when the accounting of creation, it says that the world was created bihi bar'am, through the energy. Bihi bar'am is the same letters as Abraham. That the energy of Avram is the chariot of, he's the shepherd that embodies chesed in the world. And so it's not, and this is, I think, where as women, because we're so in the mode of doing and productivity and nurturers and caretakers and taking care of so many things, that we think of chesed as an act. We do acts of kindness for others. But really, when you really understand the Sefiros, it's a state of being, this expansive, loving state of being that, and again, this is this core spiritual energy of the world that Hashem is constantly reviving. It says that the world was, according to Chassidus, wasn't just created in the 7 days of creation, but it's constantly being recreated at every moment through this energy of Chesed. And it's also the energy of flow, right? It says that it's compared to water, and just like water flows. And love, really, this is something that was so big for me in my journey, where really coming to this place like we are loved and we are loved, and that it's not about doing acts, but it's about really embodying this energy. And that's really where the total shift comes from, because a lot of times as women, especially when we're doing for our family or doing for others, and it's about doing we're in service of others. And I find especially for me, my journey was healing codependency. It was like I was there in service. I was doing acts all the time. I was there to fix others, like even fixing my husband and fixing my children. And really embodying what is chesed is so important, because what is this energy of love? It's this expansive, open-hearted energy. And when we come to it from this place, then we're in flow. And we're able to appreciate and give to others and give to our husbands from that really expansive, open-hearted energy. And I think about it a lot, because as women, again, we do so much, and we have to so important to take care of ourselves. But even self-care, I've heard people define chesed as self-care. I'm doing acts of self-care. But again, doing acts of self-care, again, is like a doing mode, right? And a lot of times when we're doing acts of self-care to fill ourselves up, we're not in that flow. It's like, we make a schedule, and today we do exercise, and tomorrow we go for a walk or go out with a friend. And again, we're in this doing mode, and it's very much external to ourselves. And in that way, our energies are going from chaos, and then doing self-care, and it's peace. And we're like a pendulum of energies, and really embodying what is love, that I'm love, that my whole being is love, that this is that flow that Hashem is really imbibing the whole world with, and the whole universe, and my body with. And to really understand it on an energetic level, like what we're saying, that the spirits are in our body, that to really be present to the energies within our body, this open-hearted, expansive energy that's in our body, because when it says that we can only love another person when we really love ourselves. So what is this love referring to? It's this love, this essential love that's not again, an act, a doing. It's really just this being, this flow that's flowing through me. And when we can connect to this energy, and again, it's challenging for us as women because again, we are gevura, we're not this chesed. But it's so important to really to really understand what that energy is, because to really love, it's like that flow, that energy. And then I know one of your principles is to mirror. We mirror that love out. And how do we get to that? To really embodying this energy of love and a flow of chesed within us. I think we, as women, we really, first of all, have to utilize, as we'll see, the feminine energies, and also to really use our husbands as anchors for that, because our husbands, again, are this generosity, this abundance, this expansive energy. And the more we can actually use our husbands as anchors for that, the more we can really integrate and tap into this energy in a really healthy way. So I'd love to hear, Sara, what you have to say about that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful description of chesed and the expansive, abundant, and love that it represents. A lot of women are very surprised when they hear that chesed is on the masculine side. And they say, like, what do you mean? Like you said, I do acts of chesed all day, or it's love, so I'm the one who's more loving. I'm the one who's more nurturing. Isn't my husband the one who's gevura, the one who's stronger? Like, why is it that chesed is on the masculine side, and gevura is on the feminine side?
Yeah.
But when we take a look at it, yes, we all have all the qualities. We all have all of these divine energies, but we are energized by different ones. So a woman, if she is, and the masculine energy, like his body, is designed to face outwards, whereas the woman's body is designed to pull inwards. And if we are too out, if our energy is too scattered or is too external from us, then we end up getting very depleted. So what we actually look at is, a lot of times this comes out in a gevura. Let's just juxtapose the two. Gevura is that structure or that inward moving quality. It's a discipline, boundaries, routines. So a lot of women, we thrive on routines, and this is an important strength that we need to bring as mothers. Our children, our homes thrive on routines and structure and boundaries and healthy, healthy systems. And then the father comes in, and I like to call the side by side qualities. Let me just back up for a second. So we noted that chesed is on the masculine side and gevura is on the feminine side, right? So how does that interact? So you were sharing so beautifully how we can use our husbands as an anchor to get more in touch with the chesed in ourselves, and that's so beautiful. But then there's this other element where we actually want to learn to appreciate our husband's chesed and know that that's not where we are energized from. We actually have a different motion of movement that is more is more in line with who we are as women. But before I get to that for a second, I just want to note that if we look at the Sefiros as a whole, okay, I'm just going to turn my chart back, my camera back around. If you look at these Sefiros as a whole, chesed and gevura, all of these middle qualities here, are all part of a general energy called za, which is the energy of giving, or the energy of providing. So where are we as women designed to be providers? We are designed to be providers as mothers. So the feminine and the masculine within za, the feminine and the masculine elements within this providing and this giving space, is how we show up as mothers and as fathers, or as I call it, the mother nurturer and the father leader. So I'm just going to look at it in the context of how we show up as parents. where a lot of times the woman is the one who, is driving the routines and the systems in the home. And then the father will bounce in with, hot dogs for supper, or a treat, or bribes, or, rough play when you want the kids to calm down and it's bedtime, or, this exuberance, or things that seem to upend our routines that we've so carefully crafted and are trying to have our evening, move along in a certain way. So when a woman learns to recognize that actually there's no better or worse when it comes to the qualities in the Sefiros. Every single Sefira, every single quality is a strength and is a power. And we need all of them. And actually, by learning to recognize and appreciate what the husband, the father, is bringing, we come to a Sefiros, which is a blending. Now, I'm a little bit jumping ahead of us. I know it sounds like you wanted to do Sefira by Sefira. We can go back to them. But just to mark that Sefiros is a blending where both colors, both elements of Chesed and Gevurah are distinct. And the way that Kabbalah describes it is that Chesed is represented by the color white, and Gevurah is represented by the color red, and Sefiros is a blending of white and red, where it's like a marbling, where the white and the red are both distinct. So what that doesn't mean is that I now have to give up on my routines. But what it does mean is that if I relax, sit back and welcome and recognize that this is not my husband being irresponsible or messing things up, or not being part of the household, or not contributing, but just playing, but I can actually see that as a contribution. That's when his expansiveness is actually going to support my routines, because the household will flow smoother and the kids will get the benefit of both.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to also share, because again, we said that women, we are Gevurah, a little bit more about how we can access the Chesed energy within the Gevurah. And this is something I think is very powerful, that really has been sitting very deeply with me. So again, Gevurah, we said, is this inward, like what you were saying, it's this inward, more contracted energy. But what really interesting is that it also says Kabbalistically that Yitzchak is one of the 7 shepherds that's connected to Gevurah. Now, if you look at the name Yitzchak, Yitzchak actually comes from the root word tzchok, which means laughter. Now, laughter, again, is not an energy that we would associate more with Gevurah, right? That sounds like more of a chesed energy, more of an expansive, loving energy. Now, another interesting thing to note is also that that Yitzchak is also the same numerology as Arbeh, which means to multiply, to expand also. So again, how does this all come together in really this connection between, again, what we're saying, this Chesed, Gevurah, the feminine and the masculine energies? Because it doesn't seem, when we describe that as an energy really of Gevurah. And what I've really found with it is that when we talk about this, like a lot of times a woman's Gevurah we think is like boundaries or discipline, which could actually create distance from our husbands, right? It's like a sense that there's clear boundaries and borders and like saying no, But when we look at it from this perspective, for Gevurah is this inward energy. And as women, when we really go inward, and again, in the dynamic of a relationship, there's so much that comes up that we could so easily go outward and blame and be reactive, right? But when we actually look at our husband, like what you're saying, and we can actually look at him and find the love and the value in him, and we actually take our energy and we go inward and be like, wow, like what am I actually triggered by? Because when we go inward, there's so many layers, and I see this with the women that I work with and for myself for sure, around our hearts that really prevent us from finding that value, from seeing the generosity, from seeing the contribution of our husbands. There's so many places where we use that energy of Gevurah for fear and for judgment, and like around our hearts, I feel there's so many places, I know for myself, that I was just so full of blockages and like I don't know, for me, like dissociated for so many years. And there was so much fear around sometimes the way my husband would show up, maybe with my children or, and when we actually go inward and we start like releasing that and going layer by layer and really noticing like what's the fear, what's the judgment, and then what happens, we go inward and we come to our source. It says that Yitzchak is also, there's very little about Yitzchak in the Torah, but what does it say? It says about him that he's digging wells. So when we really do this work as women, and I see so many women doing this work really of healing and going inward and noticing the fear and noticing the judgment, releasing all those layers around our heart that prevents us from actually loving and connecting and seeing the value in our husband, then what happens? We come to our source, this inner wellspring, really of love, right? What is a wellspring? It's water, it's chesed, it's love. And it says that chesed is water and gevura is actually fire. So what's the fire? The relationship between a husband and a wife is a relationship like fire, right? It's like a passionate relationship. And when we really go inward and we do this work, fire actually, it goes from, again, below to above. Then, and it says in Hasidus also that distance actually creates passion. It actually creates the fire. So when we really have a sense of really who I am, right? A real sense of ownership of this is who I am. This is my authentic truth. We're coming from that place where we did this work and we're connected to our inner well springs. And we're really authentically so connected to ourselves that we know really clearly, this is who I am. There's a real boundary, like a sense of ownership of like, I know who I am, where I begin, where I end, where my husband begins, where my husband ends. And there's a sense of real boundaries here, but that boundary is what creates the fire, what creates the passion, what creates the love. So yeah, I feel like we could so use this energy of growth, again, to step into the judgment and the fear, or we could also use this energy of Gvura to really go inward and really, again, when you go inward, it's love that comes out. It's the passion, it's the fire that in the relationship. So yeah, I know one of your principles is also about ownership as well, and I think that's a really big part of the Gvura, of like noticing the judgment, noticing those blockages to where I can see value, where I can't love, where I can't connect, and really going inward and doing that work. And then when we do that work, then we actually enter into that expansive energy. Again, Yitzchak is our best to multiply, to expand. So we don't stay in this like, contracted energy feels very restrictive and it could be very like fight or flight, nervous system response. But when we do that work, I mean, it's amazing what's on the other side. And there's so much connection that the Gevura could actually bring into our marriages.
Yeah. Yeah. To every sphera, there's the, there's the godly or the pure goodness of that. And then there's the negative way that it expresses itself, like it says in Chassidus that we have two nefashos inside. We have our neshama and we have our nefesh habahamis. So on the neshama side, the gevura is, only positive, but on the nefesh habahamis, or the animal soul, or the human imperfect side, we have the gevura is full of fear. So definitely learning how to explore and open up all of those fears is so fundamental to being able to connect with passion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I wanted to just share a little bit. You had spoke about Sefiros, and I love the relationship principle that's connected to Sefiros. So I would love for you to share that because I think it's so powerful. But I also just wanted to share before that, again, this idea of the
Oops, you got spotty.
Oh, did I? Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Can you just go back a sentence or two?
Okay. So I wanted to you shared a little bit about Sefiros, and I would love after if you could share the relationship principle connected to Sefiros because I think it is so, so powerful. But also the idea of Tiferet also, again, is this harmony and this balance and the connection of Chesed and Gevurah, and also within ourselves. Because again, we do have, there's so many parts within ourselves. We have, again, these feminine energies and these masculine energies, and there's so many parts within ourselves. And I feel what I've really seen a lot is that the more as women, we really learn to hold our parts, like hold the fullness of who we are, hold space for ourselves with compassion, because Tiferet is also compassion. The more we're able to hold the fullness and all the parts of our husbands as well. And, Chesed, sorry, Tiferet is Rachamim, is compassion, which is the womb. It's like being able to really hold space for another person really so requires us being able to hold space for ourselves, for our full selves. So, but I love also what the relationship principle of Tiferet. If you could share that, it's really so powerful.
Yeah, sure. So if we're looking at, okay, so I usually look at the spheres a little bit differently than the way we're discussing it here. But let me just pull it together a little bit and I'll get to that.
Yeah, sure.
Third way. Okay, so when we're looking at Chesed and Gevurah, we're looking at the right side and the left side. We're going to notice that there's a center, right? There's a middle kav, a middle line that goes through the spheroids, and it starts with Keser, which is which is found in our skull, and it's characterized by the encompassing energies of Ratzon, which is desire, and Tainug, which is delight. As you notice, desire and delight is an encompassing energy. It's not like sight that's found in my eyes. It's if I want to move my hand moves automatically. If I want to move my feet move. So Ratzon is everywhere. If I want to look somewhere, I look. So desire is found in, it encompasses my entire being. And delight also, there's the delight of all the different senses. It's not centralized in one organ.
Yeah.
And then there's, if you continue down the kav, there's Chachma and Bina, which are also masculine and feminine energies. Chachma is vision, leadership, insight, and also bittul. There's a certain sense of serving or self-abnegation. And then Bina is understanding. It's understanding one thing from another. It's developing its details. And we know that women were gifted with an extra measure, Bina Yisera, which means that we have this gift to, analyze, break things down. Our bodies have the gift of developing a baby, and lots of details and lots of pieces and moving parts. Whereas Das comes back to the middle line. Das is connection through attaching. So Das is understanding, but it's not just understanding an idea, it's connecting or attaching to the idea in a way that it translates emotionally.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the way that the Sefiros work and our bodies work, like there's right, left, and center, right, left, and center, my right arm, my left arm, my torso, my right thigh, my left thigh, the pelvic floor, the genital organs, everything kind of side and then is stabilized by what brings it together in the middle. So we have Chesed is on the right side, Gevurah is on the left side, Sefiros is in the middle. So what happens is that when I attach to the value in the contribution that my husband is bringing, or in the masculine paradigm, then that is what brings about to this Sefiros, to this marbling, to this connection between the two of us. So if we bring it down to the principles, it's called the third way. Okay, and we see that spheres are also set up into like threes, like Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gevurah, Sefiros. They go down in threes. So the third way means that I learn how to stand in the value of what you're bringing. First of all, I clear my fears so that I can actually have space for what you're bringing and for who you are. And I'll give an example just to make this more practical. And in that sense, learning how to clear space for another person is so, so important. It's actually the first act of creation that Hashem did. When Hashem went to create, the first act he did in creation was withholding himself, pulling himself back so that there would be space for a world, so that there would be space for created beings. Now, we know that there's no place devoid of Hashem, so it's not literal, but it was in our experience, so that we could experience ourselves. So in our relationships, learning how to clear space for our husband, notice where I'm judging, and instead of believing my judgment and going with it, which is what we tend to do unless we actually learn how to reflect, but we actually learn how to clear that space, clear that fear, clear my judgment, and open up recognition, open up awareness for what my husband might be bringing. And I also, at the same time, recognize and honor what it is that I'm wanting. That brings to this Sefiros, this beautiful blending where something new shows up. Sefiros is also connected to the Torah. The Torah is called, also another name for Torah is Sefiros. That term is used to describe the Torah. And we know that the Torah, when the Torah was given, it brought about this beautiful blending of the spiritual worlds, or the upper worlds, and the physical world, our world, where before the Torah was given, there was no connection point. When the Avis did a mitzvah, they just threw away the sticks that they used. The holiness did not penetrate, the holiness did not hold. But once the Torah was given, we have neither world lost their dimensions. When we do a mitzvah, we don't see the spirituality. We can't grasp it with our senses. And at the same time, the holiness in the object doesn't like poof into oblivion. It stays physical. So neither loses their dimensions. But together, something new is created, right? A sefer Torah, a holy object. Yeah. So in our relationships, when we're looking at an area where we differ, or our opinions differ, our ideas differ, or he wants one thing, I want another, instead of giving in for the sake of peace, which is a wonderful thing, but if I'm giving in a way that doesn't honor what I'm wanting, if I haven't voiced it, if I haven't shared it, if I haven't given it credence within myself, then that could often be counteract what I'm wanting, the closeness in our relationship, because I'm less than. Whereas if I actually learn how to notice and give voice to what it is that I'm wanting, and I also respect, clear my space and judgment, clear space and judgment for my husband, and actually see value in what he's coming to the table with, then something new shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think that takes a lot of hod, like really a lot of that humility and a lot of that acknowledgement, and like the hod also is that holding space energy. And I think a lot of times as women also, like we're talking in the beginning, like as a culture, as a society, so much of women, we were in this very much a netzach mode, a masculine mode again, of doing, of going, and to really be in our feminine space, to actually open ourselves up to be like, wow, like how can I see the value, and what is my true desire even, is it really requires so much of that hod energy, of that like just of that being energy, of not just doing and doing and doing, and like our nervous system is just in fight or flight, and we're in like sympathetic nervous system state, but actually to like slow down and to be present and to be really in the now, and to be like just the being energy instead of that doing energy, I think is so vital for us as women. And even in the netzach energy, when we are doing, one thing I did want to point out here is netzach is from the right side, which is the side of chesed, which is the side of love. So to be really present as women even when we're in that masculine space of doing, of like, what energy am I bringing forward with it? What energy am I actually doing and accomplishing and, moving forward in my goals with? Because again, there is so much as women that we do have to do. And, but when we notice again that the energy of Netzach is that forward doing energy, but it's from the right side. It's from the side of Chesed. And I feel the spheres actually really teach us so much to be present with the energy. Because again, the spheres are in our body. It's the life force energy that's circulating within our body. So to be really present when we are in that mode of Netzach, of like, who's in the driver's seat? Like, what's the energy that's actually in the driver's seat? And again, it's like that dance. It's really a dance because it's Netzach is the right leg and Hod is the left leg within the body. So again, it's like going forward and then like being more in that place of Hod, of stillness and much more in a place of being in our body and regulated in our nervous system and just slowing down, which I think we don't value enough as women. And we don't give ourselves space enough to do it. I know for me, it took me many years to get there. But I know when I actually really did come from a space of Hod, of like, wow, like stillness and much more presence and much more being connected to my body and what energy is like driving me and being much more regulated in my nervous system. So much opens up in the dynamic of my relationship. And also so fascinating is that Hod is also is represented by Arna Cohen, and Arna Cohen is the energy of the world of unconditional love, right? Like people would go to the Cohen, and the Kohanim, they channel down love into the world, and the Kohanim people, go to the Cohen to heal, right? Like with Sara, go to the Cohen for healing. And I really see in this dynamic of a relationship, first of all, the relationship within ourselves, because the more present and the more we're in that space of humility and slowing down, the more we can open up space to actually see value and see the contribution of our husbands and see the abundance of our husbands and actually come from a place of real love, that unconditional love, like Arna Cohen. I'd love to hear more of that dynamic from Relationshift.
So really the feminine element of how we come to our husbands is malchus, if I can skip ahead on that a moment.
Sure.
Whereas the energies of how we come to our families is the masculine and the feminine within za. So when I look at chachma, chesed, and netzach, which are the masculine energies, this is how I want to develop. This is versus bina, gevur, and hod, which are my feminine energies. This is the way I look at it, is more of how I'm bringing myself as a mother, because all of these are, are places where I'm giving, where I'm providing, where there's hashpah that's happening. So hod and netzach, like you said, are the two thighs. Netzach is the right thigh, hod is the left thigh. And netzach is that element of conquering, which is why it's in line with chesed, because chesed is an outward motion. So netzach is conquering, which is an outward motion. It's enlarging my boundaries. It's overcoming another nation. It's victory. It's competition, conquest. It's endurance. Whereas the hod, like you mentioned, is that humility. It's also the ability it's the humility to get down to another's level, right? We know when we look at the Seder, the four sons, the one that doesn't know how to ask, the Haggadah says, At Pesachlai, the woman opens it up. So it's getting down to the child's level, for what they need, for where they're at. Hod is also Haida'ah, praising, acknowledging, and beauty. Hod literally means beauty, splendor. So this is the nurture, this nurturing quality. And it's actually in Hod, well, Gvur and Chesed, Hod and Netzach, really all of them. This is where so much confusion happens in our relationship because, you know, if we look at the, like we said with Gevura and Chesed, the structure that a woman will develop and the, the playfulness that the father will bring in, which a woman could easily misconstrue as being irresponsible, or you're bribing, or you're not, you're not supporting the routine, you're messing things up. When we get to Haid and Netzach, we have a similar quality where the man is bringing the capacity to endure, or the capacity to overcome. And to a woman, that looks like, let's say a child comes in the house and throws something or yells, and the father says that's unacceptable, or go to your room, and the mother says, wait a second, he just walked in, he probably had a hard time on the bus, or he needs something to eat, and she feels like what you're doing is so harsh, you're going to emotionally damage our child. But when we recognize that he is actually contributing the masculine power, this is what brings balance. You need your left and your right thigh to be balanced. And we need the capacity to endure, to overcome our instinct, just as much as we need the capacity to be in touch with our emotions and nurture where we're at as a healthy adult, right? So when a woman is in line with her getting to nurture, being where the child is at, but we want to recognize her ability to recognize that the father is actually contributing netzach, endurance, to a child, that will support the foundation, the yesod, and the connection foundation of this child's life, as well as their own relationship. So just recognizing where the confusion sets in, and why that's actually a masculine strength and a masculine contribution, and really learning how to appreciate it opens up so much in our relationships. Same with finances. If you think about it, being a Gevura and Haid is all within the internal. It's protective, whereas Chachma, Chesed, and Netzach. Chachma is leadership and vision. Again, Chesed is that exuberant, open, and Netzach is conquering, overcoming, and commitment. So it's this outward motion. And when it comes to finances, a woman could look at her husband and say, and think like, you're being so irresponsible. You're spending too much. You're taking an unnecessary risk. Not realizing that we're saying, this general term, irresponsible, but we're speaking from our paradigm. Our paradigm is, no, our finances is security. I feel I need to protect it. If I spend it, I don't have it anymore. But again, here's an opportunity for us to open up and recognize that he's contributing, him taking a risk. This is Chachma, there's a vision. This is Chesed, which is expansiveness. This is Netzach, which is risk-taking. And that is actually what drives a man to succeed. And by respecting that, instead of by, misinterpreting it as being irresponsible, he will actually be more successful, even if he fails initially, which can feel scary. But ultimately, it supports his masculine drive to provide. Yeah.
Beautiful.
This also applies to intimacy. If we look at intimacy, Netzach and Haid, it says in Tanya, Perek Tesvav, it talks about these emotive qualities, and it compares Netzach and Haid, has a few different descriptions of them. It calls them the klayos ya'atzais, the kidneys that advise. It calls them the train bayin, the two testicles, and it also calls them rechayim or schakim, which are millstones. And what that means is that Netzach and Haid are just like the kidneys and the testicles take the semen from a potential in the brain to a physical substance that can actually create a child. Netzach and Haid is what has us translate connection in a concrete way. So Yesod is literally means foundation, but it's connected to the procreative organs in our bodies, which is that ability to connect in a concrete way. But what feeds our Yesod, what feeds our connection is very, very different. So what feeds the masculine paradigm of connection is netzach, commitment, endurance. And what feeds the feminine element of connection is nurture, is relate to me. So what often happens is this clash where the man is connecting, the man is committed to his wife. He's providing, he'll do things for her. He's showing up for her, and she's feeling, but wait, that's not connection. That's like emotional lack, or like you're not emotionally developed. Yeah. Not recognizing that actually the woman's language of connection is the language of nurture. So yes, we want the time, we want the tension, we want the affection. But if we can recognize that commitment, that netzach, endurance, day in, day out, providing, and the commitment to coming home to you and raising a family with you and being there for you, that commitment is actually an equal source of connection. Right? If you think about it, you can spend have the most amazing time with somebody, have the deepest conversation, but if there's no commitment to you, there's no connection. In fact, that lovely conversation or lovely connection or romantic connection that you had could actually be the opposite of real connection. It's the commitment that makes the connection real. So we can learn to translate our husband's netzach, our husband's commitment to us. He brings you a glass of water, instead of saying, like, very nice. That's like a, immature way of trying to show love. That's not really how you show love. You need to learn how to show love. You need to use the words. I can actually recognize that is love. This is his commitment. And if I'd like, I can use my malchus, which is the power of dibur, to translate it and say, wow, you love me, or you're thinking about me, or you care about me. And he will affirm that. Like, yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it really does take, like, being in that space of malchus. Like, malchus is the vessel. It's the final vessel that holds it all. And, like, again, it's so much about, we're talking about these energies within our body, and like when a vessel is open and it's in flow, and then we're able to see the contribution of our husbands. But when our vessel, when we're closed to actually even seeing that netzach as a contribution, as something that is a masculine energy that we could actually appreciate, even though maybe the language is different than us, and then we open ourselves up, right? Because if a vessel is closed, it can't receive. But then we open ourselves up to that connection and to that love. And it's so easy to be in.
Oops, you're breaking up.
As well.
Miriam, you're breaking up.
Oh, I'm breaking up? Wow. You don't hear me? I hear you.
I hear you spotty, and I see you spotty.
Ooh, let me see. Hold on.
You were fine before.
I was fine before. Let's see. Maybe I'm going to move a little bit. Maybe it'll be a little better. Oh, is that a little better? Because I see you clearer now. Is that better?
It's not better yet for me, but I hear you.
You hear me?
Okay, so let's continue. We have just a few minutes.
So, because again, really coming from a place that a man wants to give, like trusting that connection, the yesod of like trusting that he wants to give, and opening ourselves up to receive the love. Because so many times I feel like as women that we close our vessel. We don't feel worthy of receiving love. It's not something that especially for people that experience unhealthy connection growing up. Do you see me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Unhealthy connection growing up. Often our vessel, our body especially, is very closed. And we're in like often fight or flight, or we're not regulated in our bodies. And then our vessel is closed and we don't even, our hearts are not open to receive the love that our husbands really want to give us. So that malchus of being in an open vessel to receive the love, to receive the contribution that our husbands want to give us, instead of just shutting down. And there's so much work. I feel like a woman being in malchus is also about filling herself up. Malchus, it says, is the cup, the final cup that holds it all. And David HaMelech says about himself that he's a kosi rivaya. David HaMelech is the embodiment, the chariot of Malchut in this world. He says, I'm a kosi rivaya, I'm a cup that's. So what does it mean when we're over? Cup is so filled up, right? When a cup is filled and a woman's really giving to herself, and nurturing herself and really knowing what is her desires, her keter, what brings her pleasure, and she's filling up that vessel, then her giving comes from, she's full and she's flowing, or she's able to flow. It's not like I'm giving from a place that's depleted. So that's why it's so important for women, especially in dynamic, to really being present to what are our needs, what are our desires, what brings us pleasure, and to really fill that vessel up. Because the more we fill that vessel up, the more we're open. We're open to receive the love and to receive the connections that our husband want to give to us and to see them as a contributions. So, yeah.
So, yeah, and if I can add here, just to wrap things up a little bit, we all have all of the Sefiros within ourselves, but we want to recognize which Sefiros am I using, because this contributes to me being a whole and complete person, and which Sefiros am I using in my relationships. So, for example, I don't want to use my Bina, Gvura, and Hod in my marriage, because that will end up self-destructing. For example, if I try to nurture my husband, right, the Hod, or if I try to set boundaries with my husband, or judge him, or if I start analyzing his ideas and breaking them down for him, which is the Bina, then I end up, our relationship ends up imploding. However, within my own being, knowing how to get in touch with all of these qualities within myself, like you shared in the beginning, I have if I was just in my Bina, Gvura, and Hod, if I was just in my more constricted space, then I would be less of a balanced person. So learning how to, embrace, expand. Okay, so just to finish up this thought on the Sefiros, is that developing and recognizing and learning how to access each one of these qualities within ourselves contributes to a well-rounded personality, and is so important. It's important to have a balance, an ability to recognize that if I'm always in a state of gvura, I need to balance myself out and embrace some chesed, right? Go out and have fun, enjoy time, playfulness with a friend, with a child, with your spouse. If I am in a very nurturing space, and I'm sometimes the act of taking action and moving into netzach will take me out of that, will take me out of a space where I might be shutting down or too emotionally wrapped up in myself. So learning how to step into my netzach would be beneficial in that sense. So all of these elements within myself, in my own being, are so important. And like I was saying before, in our relationship, we want to recognize that nurturing our husband or setting boundaries with our husband would tend to backfire, whereas malchus is the feminine receptive state. So za, which is inclusive of all the emotive qualities, is the masculine state, and Malchus is the feminine state. And actually, Malchus personifies the ultimate feminine. And this is the feminine that we want to show up with in our relationship, in our marriages. And the state of Malchus is described as a sphera that is not defined by its own quality. It's not defined by a quality of its own. Rather, it is receptive. It receives all of the other qualities. However, Malchus is not a doormat. Receiving is not, is not a nothingness. Receiving is an active state. Like you see, in order to receive a cup, in order for a cup to receive, it needs to have dimensions, it needs to have walls, and it needs to have space inside of it to receive something in it. So being receptive doesn't mean that I just, go along with whatever you say and am not anything of my own. Rather, it's that I am open to the value that you bring. And in that way, I can be a composite of the best of all the qualities, because I'm not defined, I'm not limited to any one thing. And this is an incredible gift to bring into our relationships. Oftentimes we get very defined on how I want to be loved or how I want to be treated, and we lose out on the range of colors and the range of experiences and the range of interactions that really support, that can really contribute and expand us in our relationships. So Malchus is the capacity to be fully receptive. And like we said before, it's also it's connected to dibur, it's connected to our mouths. It's where we can translate and verbalize what it is that we're receiving. So, a husband goes to shul. Instead of it just being he's going to shul because that's what he does, we can actually receive it by verbalizing the value of what he's contributing. The spiritual model that he's bringing, or the gift that his avodas, Hashem, is contributing, and admire that. Receive it by verbalizing our admiration. And that might sound something like, wow, I so admire how you go to shul day in, day out. And by verbalizing that, by verbalizing the value, I've received him. So this can be applied to anything across the board. A lot of times women come to a coaching session and they struggle finding the value or finding what there is for them to receive. Perhaps their husband is struggling financially. Perhaps he's not going to shul consistently. But we actually do the work together to process what is there for you to receive, because there's always something, and it's always something that's going to be a contribution. And when we find that and we begin receiving our husbands, then we open up the range, the balance within Hashva. Oh, excellent. Okay, so I'm just wrapping up here. There you are.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm having a hard time with my internet again.
Right.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, so we'll just wrap it up since it's late.
Yeah. So I think that so we were discussing a little bit more about Malchus, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think I guess what I think we could end it really is that we're in this time now, but what you're saying, there's feminine energies, masculine energies within ourselves. And I think accessing all of ourselves, but again, recognizing that as women, it says that we're in the era of we're in the era of Mashiach, and it says that with the time of Mashiach, that the feminine energies are rising within the world. So I think, and again, I see this not only just as women, but even the men, like really tapping into more of these energies, more of the Gvura, Hod, and the Bina energies are so vital now in the world. And as we're rising, the more we are rising in our feminine energies, it says that when Mashiach comes, that the feminine and the masculine are going to wear one crown. So I think that really understanding what you're saying, the dynamic of these energies in our relationships and within ourselves, and is so important. And to really feel, I want to say also that I feel like I've done so much work. Like these things did not come natural for me. And I had a lot of masculine energy within myself. Like I just definitely was like very more of that netzach and chesed. And I had this struggle with codependency of like my energy being all over the place and not knowing how to say no. And really, like there's so much, when we really do this work, it's so powerful. And when we really step into really understanding our feminine energies and these masculine energies and how we're showing up and these energies within ourselves and within our bodies, and it's work, because it's not easy work. I'm sure as Sara as a coach sees this, and I see this as well. But it's so worth it because it's so powerful, and I've seen so many shifts in my life personally, and I'm sure you've seen as well, and in people that I've worked with, and it's all here. Like we don't have to go into the self-help books and into the marriage books. And again, this is the foundation of the universe. This is the dynamic that's within the world and within our bodies, within ourselves, is that we are a mini world. So to really go into and understand these energies from their source is really how we bring deep healing to ourselves and our relationships. And this was great. It was fascinating to hear from your perspective, my perspective. It's really interesting. So this was wonderful. Thank you so much, Sara, for having me on.
Miriam. And I just wanted to comment on this aspect of being in the era of Mashiach and the feminine energy rising. So it actually says that the song of Mashiach is called Shir Chadash, and it's a masculine term because yes, there are feminine energies rising, but there's also the masculine aspect where the strength of that geula is that it will be the final geula. So I think a lot of times women hear, the feminine energies rising and they think of superiority or better than. And we want to recognize that, like you said, the sun and the moon will wear the same crown, is that we will be able to fully embrace the feminine and also fully embrace the masculine side by side, see the value in both equally, which is an incredibly geuladica space to be in. Because when in Gullus we think of one or the other, and either or is either he's dominating or I'm dominating, his energy is dominating or mine is dominating, but we don't know how to coexist and fully respect him and honor ourselves at the same time, or to have that inclusiveness of which is the geuladica work that we're doing. So just to echo your words.
Yeah, and I also really feel like what I started off with the energy of chesed, I think so many of us in the world are like struggling with this, self-love and love, and what does that really mean, and feeling like, are we valuable? Are we lovable? And I do feel that way. Like there's so much focus on these feminine energies rising in the world and the rise of the feminine. And again, I think that there is so much that we can gain from really understanding this abundant, expansive love that Hashem is constantly, reviving and recreating the world at every moment. And I so agree with you that I think it's really important to understand, as women, both energies, and to really value both. And it's not like one is better or one is worse. This is the flow of how Hashem is recreating the world and re-energizing ourselves and the world constantly. So yeah, to really echo that.
So may we dance with a complete geula.
You should come over here on my end.
Amazing.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.